Hello class, we're about to start lesson 6, percent of change. Now, I'm going to give you a formula for the percent of change. I'm going to explain it to you, and then we will talk about this, because percent of change has two options for you. It's either percent of increase or percent of decrease. So those are the two things you will find, either the percent of increase or the percent of decrease. Now they share the same formula. Again, let me say they share the same formula. And the formula is this here. So I'm going to put an equal sign to let you know that it's the formula for both. So what you would do is you would take the new value minus the old value divided by the old value. That's it. New value minus old value divided by old value. Now, as you're going through this, you would need to also realize this. Now, this will be the only time that I would tell you this. The only time. When you're doing percent of increase or percent of decrease, when you subtract, no matter how the numbers are arranged, you will not write the number as a negative. Because when you're doing percent of decrease, because it's already considered to be a decrease, you do not have to write the negative number. This is the only situation during this course, as far as I could see, where you will not write the negative sign. You would just keep everything positive. So now we're going to test this. We're going to go down to the problems here. It says, practice 6, solve as directed. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest percent. Now we know when it says nearest percent, we have to go 3 digits behind the decimal, then round it to 2 decimal place, to the second decimal place, which is the hundredths place, and then put it as a percent. It says you may use your calculator for questions 7 through 10. And then let me read down for B as well, the directions. It says choose the one best answer to each question. You may use your calculator. So for problems 11 through 15, we can use a calculator. And then from, well, we might as well say from problem 7 to 15, we could use a calculator. But problems 1 through 6, we have to do it by hand. So let's take a look at number 1. But before we do number 1, I'm going to tell you the abbreviation I'm going to give you for percent of increase and percent of decrease. POI stands for percent of increase, and POD stands for percent of decrease, because I'm not going to write this out each and every time. So I abbreviate it. So now we go to number 1. It says find the percent of increase from 2,000 to 3,000. So we'll do percent of increase is equal to the new value minus the old value divided by the old value. So now it says here we want to increase from 2,000 to 3,000. So 3,000 would be the new value. The old value would be the 2,000. And we would divide it by the 2,000. So now 3,000 minus 2,000 is 1,000. And we'll bring over our 2,000. Now we know 1,000 divided by 2,000. We know we could divide both of these by 1,000. And that would give us 1/2. Now, a percent of increase. So now we're going to change this 1/2. We're going to take 2 into 1.00. Well, we'll go to 3 decimal places just in case. 2 goes into 1 0 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 0, we'll bring down our 0. 2 goes into 0 0 times. And so we'll just have 0.50. So our percent of increase, written as a percentage, we'll move this decimal 2 places to the right. It'll be 50%. So that will be our final answer for problem number 1. Problem number 3. It says, what is the percent of increase Well, you know what? Let me do problem 2 because I want to do a decrease problem. It says find the percent of decrease from $2 to $1.25. Okay, so we'll do percent of decrease is equal to still new minus old divided by old. So it says percent of decrease from $2 to $1.25. So our old value is the $2. The new value is $1.25. So we'll take $1.25 minus $2 divided by the $2. Now when we subtract this, $1.25 minus $2 is a negative 0.75 all over $2. Now remember earlier I told you that you did not have to write the negative sign. I'm just writing the negative sign to let you know that I know that it's supposed to be negative. But for the sake of this problem, you will rewrite this as a positive. And remember, this is the only time you would change a negative to a positive just because. Now, there are rules from changing to a negative to a positive, but we're not going to get into that right now. So now, 2.00 we know is 2. So we could take 2 into 0.75, bring up our decimal. 2 goes into 0, 0 times. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down our 5. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. 15 minus 14 is 1. We'll add a 0 and bring it down. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And we have nothing left. So this will be 0.375. Now remember, we are trying to make this into a whole percent. So we went 3 decimal places since it went past the second decimal place. So this third decimal place would tell us if we need to round this second decimal place up 1 or leave it the same. So this is 5 to 9. So we will add 1 to this 7. So this would be 0.38. Now we would change that to a percent. So our percent of decrease will be 38%. That will be our percent of decrease. Now, the next problem, basically all the rest of them is the same. But I'll go on and do problem number 6. Problem number 6, it says it's percent of decrease. So it's the same formula. New minus old divided by old. It says, what is the percent of decrease from 500 to 340? So 340 is your new value, 500 is your old value. 340 minus 500 will give us a negative 160 over 500. Now we know because we're doing percent of decrease, we would drop the negative sign, but we could also divide both of these by, let's do 20. We could divide both of these by 20. Well, first, you know what? Let me drop the negative sign first. So it'll be 160 over 500. We divide both by 20. And this will give us 8 over 25. So now we would take 25 into 8. And we'd go to 3 decimal places. Bring up our decimal. 25 doesn't go into 8. 25 goes into 83 times. 3 times 25 is 75. 80 minus 75 is 5. Bring down our 0. 25 goes into 50 twice. 2 times 25 is 50. We have nothing remaining. So this would be 0.32. So our percent of decrease will be 32%. That is our percent of decrease. Now that took care of all of the problems that we cannot use a calculator for. So what I'm going to do with the calculator problem, I'm going to do about 3 calculator problems, and then we will be done with this lesson. So we're going to do problem number 10. Problem 10. It says, what is the percent of decrease from 1500 to 1025? Percent of decrease is equal to new minus old divided by old. So the new value would be 1025. The old value would be 1550. And we'll divide that by 1550. Now we could put this in our calculator. Now remember, you have to remember that you do not write the negative sign here with percent of decrease. So you will click the N over D. I guess I clicked it twice. You will click N over D, so you would take 1025 minus 1550. Then you will hit the down arrow and do 1550. Hit the right arrow, and then you will press second, and then this close parenthesis, because you want to change this to a percent, and you will press enter. Now remember, drop the negative sign. So this will be, now, we look behind this decimal. Remember, we want to keep it a whole number. So since the first digit behind this decimal is 5 to 9, we will add 1 to this place value. So it'll be 34%. So that will be your percent of decrease for this problem. Now, we go down here to the bottom. I'm going to do problem 12 and then 14, and then we're done. Problem 12. David bought a computer game on sale for $36. The game was originally $48. What was the percent of decrease in the game's price? So it went from, it was originally $48. It tells you it was originally $48. So your percent of decrease, that means that $48 was the old. And then the new would be the discounted price, which is $36. So you would take 36 minus 48 divided by 48. Now we will put this in our calculator. We would hit the fraction key, and we add 36 minus 48, and we hit our down arrow and hit 48. Press the right arrow key, press second function, close parenthesis key, and press enter. We'll drop that negative sign, so it'll be 25%. So now, the last problem we have is 14. It says questions 14 and 15 refer to the following information. Mark sells computer equipment. He buys printers at wholesale and sells them at retail price. Customers who join his discount club pay the members price. So for problem 14, it says, what is the percent of increase from wholesale to retail price of the L310 model? So we have POI, which is percent of increase. So it's still new minus old divided by old. So the new price would be the retail price, because remember, he bought it wholesale. So they asked us, what is the increase from wholesale to retail? So the retail price would be the new, which is $150. Wait a minute, that is the L310. I'm sorry, it's $141.75. And then minus the wholesale price, which would be $63. And then we would divide it by the $63. Now, we put this in our calculator, because we were told we could use calculators. So we would do our fraction key. We have 141.75 minus 63. We hit our down arrow, hit 63 again, and then we'll hit the right arrow, second function, close parenthesis, and hit enter. So it'll be 125%. So our percent of increase is 125%. And now this ends this last lesson of chapter 3. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a wonderful day. And I will upload this to you.